right. Well, it is 10:02, and so I'd love to go ahead and get started. My name is Jen Dool. I am the Young Adult Coordinator at Richmond Public Library. For those of you that don't know me, that means that I kind of am in charge of all the programming and services for middle and high school students in the area. And we are joined today by Tom Katzowicz. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Katozich, it's close. Mr. K is fine.
Katzowicz.
Mr. K
I
is
know you even kind of helped me with that, and I still got it wrong. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Katozich, and he is the Youth and College Financial Manager at the Virginia Credit Union. We're very lucky to have him. He's done some programs for us in the past, and so we definitely wanted to bring him back again. He has a multidisciplinary bachelor's degree from West Virginia University in business administration and communication studies, a master's of business administration from Virginia Commonwealth University, and over 15 years of experience in financial services. So he is well versed in what he's going to talk to us about today. He manages all of Virginia Credit Union's financial education efforts for K through 12 and college students. Sounds like a really big job. And is an accredited financial counselor. He is married and has a beautiful 1-year-old daughter. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And 2 dogs and 2 cats. So I'm sure being home has been really interesting for you, Tom, over the past year.
Absolutely has. And actually, I feel really kind of blessed because not a lot of parents get a chance to spend a majority of their child's first year of life, a lot of times because of stuff like money, like you got to put your kid in daycare and you have to have other people help out and you don't really get to spend that. So I've been able to work from home and I've been able to spend time with my daughter, which has been really just a stroke of luck, honestly. And that was my whole theme for 2020 was find silver linings, and that was a silver lining from all this mess for me, for sure.
I think that's a great way to look at all of this that's going on. So, well, welcome. Thank you for being here and hosting this workshop today. Cash flow is king, budgeting for teens. I love this topic. I think that it's something that adults even need help with all the time. So if we can help our, younger people get in that mind frame early on, hopefully that will set them up for some great financial success in the future. And so I'm excited. I hope and I'm confident that even I will learn something today as well. So I think we have some students, some teens, and even some school staff, educators on in our audience today. So I hope that everybody will take away something from this workshop. While we're going through, I think Tom is going to, in an effort to make this as interactive and engaging as possible, he'll be attempting to answer any of your questions sort of as they come up. So feel free to post those in the chat or in the Q&A. We will both be keeping an eye on that as we go through. And Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. And
Sure.
Thank you everybody for tuning in today. I hope you guys get a lot of good value out of this. As Jen mentioned, I work at the credit union, Virginia Credit Union, and this is all I do, all I talk about, all I think about all the time, which can be somewhat annoying and depressing occasionally. But for the most part, I really like to think about like understanding personal finance and money management as a really very empowering thing. Like, this is where you get to take control over your decisions. Like a lot of times when we think about money, we think that there's a lot of stuff that's not in our control. And we think that there's like things that are kind of all over the place. But if you try to like really sit down and break it down, like with a little bit of thought, a little bit of logic, a lot of things kind of come into picture. And it's about like setting expectations and realistic expectations. Cause like, the more you think about it, you're faced with like a series of decisions, like every day, all the time, every day, millions and millions of decisions. It can be as simple as like, am I going to brush my teeth, before I take a shower or after, like these kinds of things. And we turn on autopilot a lot, and a lot of things become habit and become, things that we just kind of do over and over again for no reason other than like, it's what we've always done. And sometimes you got to kind of stop, take a picture, take a view of where you're at, and then, think maybe this might not be the right thing for me, or maybe I'm not actually working towards achieving or accomplishing my goals. So today we're going to be talking about kind of those daily transactions, those daily interactions you have, not just with money, but just in life in general, because the way that this works is you're going to make hundreds and thousands of decisions in a week, like just in a week's time. And regardless of whether or not it's the money part is the most important part, it's always a factor, right? So like there are no good or bad decisions. There's just decisions and then like an outcome. Okay. So if you start to think about it like that, then hopefully this will help you make better decisions going forward. So we're going to start. I like this quote here. I just saw this recently, so I decided to add it in. Let's see if I can get this going. Oh, here's my contact information. Um, Jen, if you want to put that into the chat, feel free to do that. You're welcome to do that. Teachers, again, feel free to reach out to me directly if you want to set up something with your class. The age range that I'm going for here with today's content, like this is going to be kind of a lot here. So for the middle school students, we're going to expose you to some new vocabulary or maybe some reinforcement vocabulary that you're learning. But if you don't quite get all of it, that's okay. That's totally okay. And again, as Jen mentioned at the beginning, like a lot of adults still don't quite get all of this all the time, or it may just be kind of a good refresher. So you don't have to know everything all at once. It's okay. All right. Here's the quote I was telling you about. So this is a guy named Warren Buffett. He's a rich old white guy. I know he is one of the richest people on the planet, and he is one of the only people that actually got that way through investing. He didn't start a company. He's not a professional athlete. He's not a you know a YouTube influencer or whatever. Like he actually just had some money when he was young and started to invest and got into a job where he was investing other people's money and eventually built this company called Berkshire Hathaway that basically created enough wealth for this guy to have to be the third richest person on the planet. And what Warren Buffett says is don't save what is left over after spending. Instead, spend what's left over after saving. So that has to do with cash flow and making decisions, right? When you get money, you got choices, right? This is what you'll learn about this in your economics and personal finance class in high school if you're not there yet. I don't know who all is in the crowd here. But there's this concept called opportunity cost. So whenever you get a dollar, you got choices. You can save that dollar, you can invest that dollar, you could spend that dollar. And what you spend that dollar on is either going to be something that you use and consume and could improve your quality of life, or it's something that could benefit you longer in the future. So if you work, when you're working, if you work on and you get an average salary of $40,000 a year and you work for 40 years and you don't get a raise that entire time, your entire earnings will be over $1.5 million. It'll be $1.6 million. And for those of us in the audience who have a little bit of experience in the work world, some teachers and those of us who are maybe some of the adults in the crowd, $1.6 million sounds like a whole lot of money. Over the course of 40 years, though, you're going to spend a majority of that, because you need to have a roof over your head. You need to have, food in your stomach. You need to have insurance. You need to have all of these things. You like to have electricity. You like to have connection to the internet to help make you more money and all this kinds of stuff. So those earnings that you're going to get over the course of a 40-year career, hopefully you can earn more than $40,000 a year. Hopefully you will get raises, and you want to try to set yourself up to think like this, right? You want tomorrow to be better than today, and you just need to make a bunch of decisions about it today to help set you up for that. Okay. So you're going to have a lot of teachers, people in your life that have been very successful. Learn from them. You're going to have a lot of people in your life that may not be very successful. Learn from them too. Like, you can learn lessons from everybody that you come into contact with. So that's the best advice that I can give you. If you don't take anything else out of this whole thing today, it's never, ever stop learning, especially when it comes to your money and finances. So today we're going to talk about cash flow. And I turn cash flow into a really very simple math problem. Okay, so the simple math problem is income minus expenses equals cash flow. Okay, now what you have to understand is that cash flow typically occurs during a period of time. Okay, so it's like over a length of time. This is typically monitored and projected out through a thing called a budget, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but a little bit more conceptually, a little bit more thoughtfully, we're going to think about this. So if I want to understand how much money I have coming in and how much money I have going out, what kind of a period of time or time cycle would I want to try to look at? Feel free to answer in the chat. What kind of time cycles or period length of time do we want to look at to determine what a cash flow cycle would be? Would it be 1 day? Do we want to look at 1 day over how much money I make and spend in 1 day? 2 weeks? That's a good answer. I see 2 weeks in the chat. 1 month. Okay, that's a great answer. 1 month. And the common budget typically occurs over a 1 month time period. Why do you think that is? Why do you think 1 month is a common cycle that we look at for all of our income and our expenses? What happens once a month? What's the big things that happen once a month? Anybody got a guess? The bills, correct, the bills. Most of your major bills come on a monthly cycle, but not all of them. Payday, that's another one. So a lot of people like to time their cash flow cycles around payday, but very few people actually get paid once a month. At the credit union, we get paid twice a month. It's called a semi-monthly. I always get this confused if it's semi-monthly or bi-monthly. I think it's a semi-monthly paycheck. So I hope everybody's having, and if anybody's having any audio issues, Jen, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Is anybody else having problems?
Okay, I'll pause for just a moment. Okay. We hope that you guys get everything back on track there, Ms. Graves. Okay. So the common cash flow cycle that we typically look at is a month, all right? Because bills come in a month, and a lot of times your income can come at various different times, which is why all of this stuff definitely does matter. Because if I got a paycheck coming up on let's say the paycheck comes on the 15th, but my bill is due on the 13th, I need to make sure that that money is there on the 13th to pay my bill on time, right? So that's why this stuff all matters, and timing definitely matters. Another good cash flow cycle that sometimes people don't necessarily look at, but really should, is a whole year, like an annual cycle. And the reason why you want to look at not just every month, but every year is because you have a lot of things that you got to pay for that may come up once a year or annually. Can anyone think of anything that you may have to pay, not every month, but once a year? We just passed by a season. This is a little hint, a tip. We just passed by a season where you may have to spend more money. Property taxes, that's correct. Personal property taxes. Depends on the type of tax. I see taxes coming in a lot. Property taxes typically happen once or twice a year. Now they happen twice a year if you live in the city. But something else that happened, it's not necessarily a bill, but it's a fun thing, right? Holidays, birthdays, those things come along once a year, right? But you end up having to spend a whole lot of money. So am I thinking about, holiday spending or Christmas spending, if that's a holiday you choose to celebrate? Am I thinking about that in February or March? Well, maybe I should be if I'm going to end up spending a whole lot of money. Okay. So what we're going to do, I got kind of a really kind of simple example here of what this looks like in number form. Okay, so this is, again, a really simple equation. Let's say we have $2,500 or $2,500 in what's called net monthly income. So net monthly income is a term for the amount of money you get in 1 month after all of your taxes, your income taxes, are taken out of your paycheck. Okay, so net monthly income is another term for your take-home pay. Okay, so once you guys get out there and you start getting your first job, you're going to say, like, okay, I make $12 an hour. I work this many hours. I should be getting this much money. Like, that's how you calculate your income. But as those of us who have jobs know, you don't actually get to keep all of that money, because the property or income taxes have to be taken out both from the federal government and the state government. Now, you may get some of that money back when you go to file your taxes, but that's a bigger conversation, and we don't have 17 hours to go into taxes. That's a big, big conversation. So on this example here too, I also have calculated that this is a hypothetical situation, this person's total monthly expenses, so the amount of money that they've actually spent, is $2,458.35. I'm going to show you how that came to be a little bit later. Okay, so this person for this example has 1 month's cash flow is positive at $41.65. Okay, again, this is a very specific amount. This is very specific. Not trying to be too nerdy about this, but this is how money and numbers work, right? This is how money and numbers work. Okay, so how do we get to that number? How do we get to that number? Well, first we got to take a look at our income. Okay, so income is defined as getting money. That's the way I define it anyway, is how do you get money? So how do you get money? You'll see up on the screen some ways that you can just get money. You can either work for it, which we're going to talk about that next, because that's really going to be your primary way that you get money. Sometimes money is just given to people. And this is where we have a lot of inequities in our society around some people whose families may be able to be in a position to help them or give them money, or they get some kind of inheritance or something along those lines. But it definitely is a way that people can get money, is it's just given to them. Government assistance is another way. Qualifying for different types of government assistance, that's definitely a way that you can get money. And if you're in a situation where you need it, don't ever be ashamed to apply for it and go out and find ways that you can get it. That's what it's there for. That's why we all pay taxes, is so people have the ability and capacity to be able to use this. A lot of people are really learning about this now while we've had this COVID situation going on, because people who work really hard all day, their income shuts down because people can't go to restaurants or people can't go to stores. So if the store's not making money, if the restaurant's not serving customers, they can't pay their employees. So if the restaurant's going to be shut down or the business is going to be shut down, then government assistance is going to have to be there to help people, at least in the short term. Investments are another way that you can actually get money. But in order for you to be able to buy investments and get those forms of income, additional forms of income, you have to have money. So that goes back to working and saving again. So a lot of this always ends up coming back, all things equal. If everybody starts out at zero, you going to work is going to be kind of where you start. And it's a slow process. Like, you got to build this up over time. Now, another way to kind of help carefully move that process forward is by borrowing money and using debt. We're not going to go too far into using debt. With debt, you can use debt really to get ahead in life if you're really careful about it, like getting a loan to go to college or getting a loan to buy a house. Like, those are very valuable things to do. But if you're using loans and debt, like credit cards and payday loans and personal loans, to pay your bills from one month to another, you're really going to be in trouble, because those loans do have to be repaid, and then the bill is still going to come the next month. So you're just adding another bill. You want to be very, very careful about this. Okay. Very careful. So let's go back to thinking about the primary way that you're going to be able to get money, which is through work. Okay. How do you make money? So let's use that example. Okay. You see the question here is, how do you make more money? Because that's going to be the question that we're going to need to address. How do you make money to begin with? Is you find a job. So what is a job? A job is you doing something that somebody else either doesn't want to do or doesn't know how to do or can't do themselves. And so they're willing to pay you to do it, right? That's the whole concept of human capital or labor, work, right? So if I own a Chick-fil-A restaurant, let's say I'm a franchise owner of Chick-fil-A, there's no way that I personally, as the owner of that business, can run all the fryers, take care of all the customers. I mean, I've seen those drive-through lines at Chick-fil-A. Those drive-through lines at Chick-fil-A are a mile long. Any day, other than Sunday, of course. Any day that drive-through is a mile long. As a business owner, I know for a fact that I cannot do all that by myself. So I got to hire people to help and do it, right? That's how that works. Okay, so that's getting a job, is doing something for somebody else where they're going to pay you to do it. Okay. Now, when I'm thinking about, okay, so if I get that job, let's say I get that job and it's paying me the $2,500 a month to do that job. Okay. If you do the math on that, $2,500 job before taxes is $30,000. So if you include taxes, that is going to be around that $40,000 to $45,000 a year job. Okay. Okay. So if I want to make more money, there's only really kind of two things that I can do to make more money. Does anyone have a guess what one of those two things are? You can put it in the chat. What are two ways through my own work, not through investing, not through, gambling or the lottery, I don't know, but through my own work and labor, what are the only two things that I can do to make more money than I'm making right now? Get a higher paying job. Grace, excellent answer. Excellent answer. Get a second job. Okay, these two answers are the two answers, but instead of getting a second job, I'd like to define that as just working more. Okay, so you can either work more hours or you can get paid more per hour of work that you do. Okay, so even if you make a salary, so like at the credit union, I make a salary. Okay, I have a fixed amount of money that I earn every single year. Okay, and that amount of money every year is broken down into 2 paychecks a month, and all of my taxes are taken out and all of my other benefits are taken out, which we're not going to get into all of those other benefits and that kind of stuff. You'll learn about that as you get out into the real world. Okay, so I get a salary at the credit union, but I can still calculate how much money I'm making per hour of work that I do. Does anybody know? Throw it in the chat if you know this. What is the minimum wage for hourly workers in the state of Virginia? Does anyone know what the minimum wage is for the state of Virginia? 715. I think it's 725. Is 715 right? I know that's pretty close. We'll say it's 715. Okay, so that means that by law, you cannot work for less than $7.15 an hour in the state of Virginia, unless you're like a waiter or waitress at a restaurant. And then you also get to work for tips and things like that. That's a whole weird process too. But anyway, so you can't work for, 725. Okay, so it's 725 per hour of work. Okay, so if I'm making minimum wage and I want to make more money, I can do two things. I can work more hours or I can earn more per hour of work that I do. Okay, per hour of work. How do I make more money per hour of work? Get a higher paying job is what Grace's answer was. How do I get a higher paying job? That's a question. That's a question. How do you get a higher paying job? Ask for a raise. Excellent. Are they going to definitely give you a raise? No. Okay. What would make it more likely for your boss to give you a raise? Work hard. Good answer. Be reliable. Also a great answer. Show up on time. Do your best. Have a good attitude. These are all those kind of soft skills that you're going to learn. Not giving up. Have relevant skills. This is great. Cross train. That's right. And one way that you can actively invest in your own future earnings is by getting new skills and credentials. Okay. I know that throughout all of history in America, it's been go to college and get a degree. That's not necessarily the way forward for everybody, right? But not doing anything to improve or increase your skills. Like if you want to go into a trade, if you want to go learn to be an HVAC or an electrician or a plumber, which are can be very profitable jobs, you still need to get the education to do that. You still need the experience to be able to do that. So you still need to invest in doing that. So if you look up here on the screen, these are the top paying jobs, highest paying jobs. I just pulled this today. I don't know what year this is from. I can't see it on my screen. But if you see on here, a lot of these have to do with healthcare and computers, right? Healthcare and something with computers. And in order to get into these jobs that are super lucrative and well paying, you got to study hard. You got to try to be good at math. Plant manager, like that's one that's like, you can start with just being a plant worker and work your way up to being a manager. But again, it depends on how you interact with your work, right? It's, if you let's use this as an example. We'll go back to the Chick-fil-A. If you show up to Chick-fil-A every day with a really bad attitude or not on time or dressed all disheveled and things like that, are they likely to select you out of the group to move up to the manager job? Likely not. Now, this is the part that gets a little bit difficult, and these are where conversations get really difficult, is that manager at that Chick-fil-A or that franchise owner at Chick-fil-A may not know why it is that you're late all the time. You may not have reliable transportation because something else in your life is going wrong or crazy, so there's a lot that goes into these things, but the reality of the situation is you're competing in the job market. You're competing against other people. So you need to make sure that you're doing your best to stand out. Okay. Excellent answers. You guys are really good. These are excellent answers. Okay. Now, how do you make your money work for you? You probably have heard this term. You got to spend money to make money, and you want your money to work hard for you. It's not that easy. Like, if it were that easy and everybody could just do this, like if it were that easy, then everybody could just do this and make tons of money and everybody would have a lot of money. Again, this stuff is not that easy, but it starts with earning money and then not spending it on stuff that's just consumption. And it's like, so this is like how you start to build wealth. Okay. I did this program not too long ago with some middle school students about jobs. And the last question that I asked was, what is the most important thing you should do when you get your paycheck? And two of the answers, this was on a Kahoot, two of the answers were save or pay bills. So what do you guys think? What do you think is the most important thing for you to do? Pay your bills or save some money? Type in the chat. If you're in a classroom, get a vote. Pay bills, pay bills, pay bills. Get a lot of pay bills. Save. All right. Pay yourself first. Pay bills, pay bills. We got a lot of good answers here. And what I like to say is, this is kind of a trick question, although on the game I do have it set for save first. You do want to pay yourself first, because here's the reality is, like, when you get a paycheck, you don't want all of your money going to Comcast. You don't want all of your money going to Spotify and Netflix. You need to make sure some of that money is staying in your pocket, right? You need to make sure that some of that money is staying in your pocket. Okay. So the way that I like to define this or classify this is, your saving is equal to a bill. It is an expense. It's a bill. It's how you want to make sure that you're doing that, because the only way you'll be able to invest, the only way you'll be able to move yourself forward is if you are able to save. Okay. Now that makes spending on this goes back to that Warren Buffett quote. Try to, after you've saved, then spend what's left. Okay. So that means don't sign up for a bill that you can't afford. I know this sounds really simple. It sounds very simple. It can get very difficult when you get into real life. Okay. So once you've started to save and accumulate money, then you want to start to think about how you can earn more money on that. You can get deposit interest on like savings accounts, but that's really not earning a whole lot of interest. So you really want to look into things that are considered investments, things that pay you to own them, like companies. Like if you invest in the stock market, that's a company that you can own that will pay you to own it. Real estate and rental properties, and other things that potentially go up in value. Okay. We'll talk about that again a little bit. Okay. Does this make sense? Does anybody have any questions so far? No? We're okay. All right. Okay, so to recap for income, this is income, getting money in, getting money in. $2,500 a month in income is a salary of $1,250 2 times a month. Okay. Now, whenever you're looking at thinking about creating a budget, okay, so a budget is a tool that actually looks to the future. Okay. If you have a salary, this is nice and clean and easy. Like, this is super clean and easy, is I know exactly how much I'm going to get paid. For a lot of people, though, your income is not a fixed number. Your income may not necessarily be a fixed number. Your income may be a variable or fluctuating number, which that's where things get a little bit more complicated. So we're going to try to think about that or address that. Let's think about, where does our money go? Okay, so I see up here, pay bills, pay bills. This could take a little bit of time. In the chat box, where does your money go? This could be literally an endless list. What bills do you have to pay? What bills do adults have to pay? Common bills. Rent, good, check. Taxes, yes, absolutely. House, car, electricity, water, phone, car, yeah, all these, yes. Internet, absolutely. I would consider that to be a necessity in today's day. In fact, I would consider the internet to be more of a necessity than car, almost. That's getting to the point where we're in that at that point. Light, yeah, your light bills. Phone, water, excellent. Education, wonderful, excellent. Okay, good. All of these things. What about food? Right? What about stuff that your church? Yeah, 100% yes. What about stuff that you actually want to buy? You know, pets. Oh man, welcome to my world. I have 4 animals in my house, and they are expensive. I've got 2 cats sitting right here by my window. Okay, so what are some things that you want to buy? Not just bills, but what are some things that you want to have? Appliances, vacation. Yeah, amen to that. I would like to get out of my house. This is getting crazy being in my home all the time. Clothes, yeah, for sure. Beautifully decorated room. New car. New car. All right, new car. Haircut. Come on, think big, people. What do you want? Going out to eat. That's a good one, Jen. Wonderful. Anything else? Nobody? Nikes or a new Xbox or a PlayStation? Like, I know that a new iPhone. I mean, I know that that's what people want because that's what a lot of people spend their money on. Like, lots and lots of people. A gym membership. What about anything from Amazon? Like, literally everything from Amazon. We have an Amazon Prime membership, and the drivers know us. Like, they show up, and I am really very tight with what I try to buy that's not useful, and that Amazon truck seems to stop at my house like almost every day. It's horrible. It's really not good. Gym memberships, yes. Okay. So good answers. Those are excellent. Okay. So you get 1 or 2 sources of income, and then you got to pay for everything with that bit of income. Okay, so in our example, we get $1,250 2 times every month, and then we have to pay for literally everything that you guys just listed, plus probably about 2 dozen things that you didn't. Okay, toiletries, cleaning supplies for your house, cable subscriptions, other types of entertainment subscriptions like Netflix, things like that, Amazon Prime, cooking equipment, appliances, everything. Okay. So now we're looking at the other side of our equation. You have your income, you have your expenses. This is the other side, is the expenses. Now, in my opinion, you have some degree of choice and control over every dollar that you spend, other than taxes. Taxes are the one thing that's absolutely a non-negotiable thing. Now, there are ways that you can reduce the amount of taxes that you pay, but that requires a lot of sophistication and or an accountant who you also would have to pay to do that. Okay. If you make less than a certain amount of money, though, you can actually go to what's called a VITA site, or a volunteer income tax assistance site, which is very, very helpful. And you can get like tax professionals that can help you pay your taxes for free. Okay. So everything about money is about what's coming. It's about the future. Okay, so if I know that I'm going to make this amount of money, and I know what some of my bills are roughly, that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so you have fixed expenses, variable expenses, and then periodic expenses, and then you have unknown expenses, which are last. Okay, so what is a definition or example? If somebody could type it in the chat, what is a definition or example of a fixed expense? What's a type of a fixed expense? Or what are some of the mortgage or rent? Michelle, excellent job. What are some of the characteristics of a fixed expense? What do we know about a fixed expense? Same amount each month. Excellent. Okay. Now, Dion, you answered food. Would you consider food to be a fixed or a variable expense? So Michelle's answer correct. Ms. Carter's answer was correct. That if a fixed expense is a mortgage or a rent, then the same amount each month is a fixed expense. No, you're correct. This is exactly why we're explaining this. This is perfect. So you think there are things that you have to pay for every month. So Dion's answer was you always have to get food. Correct. That means that it's a need, it's a necessity, but it's not a fixed expense because the amount of money that you spend on food fluctuates based on how much food you buy and eat, right? So that's what makes it what's called a variable expense. So if I want to know in the future how much my rent is going to be, I know I have a contract. It says my rent is going to be $800 a month from now until my contract renews in a year. At that point in a year, it may go up or down, but I know that every month for 1 year, my rent is going to be $800. Okay, that's a fixed expense. When I'm trying to think about the future, it's easy for me to guess that. I don't even have to guess that. I already know it. Now, if I want to guess how much money I'm going to spend next month on food, which is a function of how much I eat and how much I buy, which I'm a kind of a husky fella, so I eat a lot. How do I know what my variable expenses are going to be in the future? How do I know how much I'm going to spend next month on food? Anybody have a guess? Budget. Okay, excellent. A budget. So the budget is the forward-thinking document where, yes, take a look at your spending tracker. This is perfect. You guys are doing great. So if I'm looking into the future and I want to say, I think that I'm going to only spend $200 next month on groceries and maybe $100 on going out for dinner. Okay, so those are two in my budget. Those are two different categories. In my budget, those are two different categories. I have food I make at home, groceries, and then I have food that we go out to eat. And the more you actually look at this, the more you see how expensive going out to eat is. So you buy more food at home and cook for yourself, which I've become a really good cook and I really enjoy that. If I had my way and it were easier to do and less cost, like less volatile, I would probably like own a food truck and just drive around and cook. But I need a job that has health insurance because I have a baby. So like these are trade-offs that you're going to have to make. Okay, so if I want to look to the future to see how much I'm going to spend on something, I can't see that. I don't know. I have no idea. But I can have a little bit of an idea if I look at how much I have spent in the past. Okay, that's what projecting or predicting is. Now, a periodic expense, I saw somebody that mentioned that your grocery bill should be a fixed expense and your dining out should be a periodic expense. You're getting kind of close to what I'm talking about, but there's a little bit of a difference there. The food budget is always going to be a variable expense, always. No matter how tight you are with your budget, it's always going to be a variable expense because unless you buy exactly the same thing every single month and the prices never change, then there's no way that it will always be exactly the same amount. You can set yourself limits and things like that, but it's always going to be off just a little bit. Okay, so that's your goal, is to try to get it as close to correct as possible. Okay, now periodic expenses, that's something that's even different and even harder to kind of guess or project, right? So what is an example of a periodic expense? Like what's something that you buy even regularly, even more than once a year, but you don't necessarily buy it every single month? What are some things that you may buy but not every month? I can think of one that's usually a pretty big one for me personally, because I'm a full-grown adult. I'm an overgrown adult, actually. What's something that you buy, but not necessarily every single month? Cleaning supplies and gifts for sure. Gifts for sure. You can plan gifts really well. Cleaning supplies is another one. Replacements for stuff, right? Yeah, absolutely. Good one. The example I like to use a lot is clothes, right? I do not buy clothes. Car repairs. Now you're getting into the unknown expenses. Vacations, travel, excellent. Okay, these are excellent. So remember, when you're thinking about your plan, when you're thinking about your budget, it's about the future. So you look at what you have done back here in the past, and then you look at what you want to do in the future. So that's like setting a goal. So if I have a goal that I want to go on a vacation, then I figure out, okay, where do you want to go? How much is it going to cost? How much do I need to save? Every paycheck out of each of those incomes do I need to save to get to that goal? Well, if I don't have enough money extra in my cash flow to save to get to that goal, what am I going to do? How do I do that? And these are where your different strategies kind of come into play. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. That's going to be kind of my big finale, talking about that. Okay, so when you're sitting down to think about creating a budget, again, a budget is just literally like I created a budget from scratch using an Excel workbook. So if you want to talk about going back to that screen that I was telling you that showed like high paying jobs, for any of you young folks out there that are really good at Excel, you are going to make a lot of money in your life. If you can get to be really good at using Excel, you can that is a skill that people will pay you a lot of money to provide for their company or business. So practice yourself at home. If you practice yourself at home, and it's something as simple as start with the things that you know, and don't even start putting any dollar amounts in, just start making a list. Okay, just make a list. So where are all the places where I get money? Um, Birthday gift, my allowance, whatever, right? Part-time job. Maybe some of you are old enough to have a part-time job or full-time job. I don't know. Then start with a list of where does my money go? Okay, what bills do I have to pay? What am I responsible for paying for? And then look at what your goals are. Okay, so what do I want? What do I want to accomplish? And add that to your expense list. Okay, now if you don't know the numbers, just start by guessing, right? Start with the stuff that you know. I know that my bill for my rent is this, right? I know that my mom makes me pay for my Disney Plus subscription and it's $13 a month. Okay, boom, there's that, right? That's how you start. That's where you start. And then the way you get better is by actually tracking where your money goes. So Michelle mentioned her money tracker, money tracker. Like that's an excellent thing that you want to do. And I've tried all kinds of stuff online, but the best thing to do is get a piece of paper out and a pencil and start writing that stuff down. I do it with an Excel spreadsheet, but it's the same concept. Write down where your money is going. If you don't know where your money is going, it's because you're not paying attention to where it's going. Okay. And then this is the key is you got to make sure that you're able to make adjustments as you kind of go. All right. So we're going back to our example. So I took an Excel spreadsheet and I typed this stuff in here. Okay. And this was my result. So where I remember I told you earlier, $2,500 of your income minus $2,458.35 of your expenses equals a positive cash flow of $41.65. This is how I got to that point. Okay. So you have rent, electricity, water, internet, and it's not all clean numbers. These are not all like $30 or $60 because this is how it works in real life. Like some of these are actually my expenses. Like my internet cost me $89, or no, my cell phone cost me $89 and 71 cents or something like that. Okay. So this is basically what you're trying to get to. Okay. So whenever you're looking at your cash flow, a cash flow is an analysis of what has already happened. I know that sounds kind of fancy, but it's what has already happened. Okay. And then the budget is about what's coming in the future, what's going to happen in the future. Okay. So if I take this information, I can use that to try to guess what's coming. So in this scenario, this person spent all of their monthly income on rent, electricity, water, internet, car payment, car insurance, gas, groceries, eating out, subscriptions, clothes, hair care, and a cell phone plan. Nowhere on here do you see savings. Nowhere on here do you see investing. Nowhere on here do you see, you know, any unexpected expenses like a car repair, like what happens if your tire blows out or anything like that. These are real life scenarios or problems that people end up having. Okay. So what happens when your cash flow for the month is negative? What happens if I don't have enough money to pay all of my bills? What options do I have? Does anyone have any guesses? I kind of put it up on the screen a little bit. What are some things that you can do? Go into your savings, right? If you want to go into your savings, Grace, that's a great answer. But in order for you to go into your savings, what do you need to have? Savings, right? Yeah, exactly. And in order for you to have savings, this is where things get real. I'm telling you, this is where things get really difficult, is because when times are good and the money is coming in, then you think those good times are never going to end. And I'm just going to spend it. I'm going to spend it now because I got it now. But the thing is that's what financial planning is about, is preparing when times are good for when times are not going to be good. Because what we know in life is that there are going to be good times and there are going to be bad times. And so if you're able to plan when times are good for when times are not, then you can weather the storm or have some kind of thing to rely on. Now, I see borrow and going into debt and ignoring some bills. If you think about this like rationally, like in terms of our equation here, income and expenses equals your cash flow. So if you think about these two things that are variables, income and expenses, and they're actual numbers that are variables, increase your income or decrease your spending. Like, and by spending, I mean like try to reduce your bills, or ignoring your bills at a certain point may end up becoming an option, but you really want to make sure that that is absolute last resort. Going into debt is also kind of a last resort too when it comes to emergencies, because again, like if I'm struggling to pay all my bills right now and then I have to pay a bill with a loan, then the next month that bill is still going to come, and now I'm going to have another bill which is paying down the loan or paying back the loan. So again, like it's really very difficult. It's really very difficult. That's why, like, really anytime you're spending your money, you got to think about the long-term investments. Sell something. That's a great one too, Jen. That is a great one as well. Okay. That's what's called liquidating your assets. But see, here's the thing is in order for you to be able to sell something, you have to have it first, right? You have to own that thing to be able to sell. And the only way that you get stuff, the only way that you own things to be able to sell is you buy them or they're given to you, right? That's the only way you can do this. That's the only way you can do this. Either you buy it or it's given to you, or you borrow. Okay. Now, I would also say if your cash flow situation is negative, you need to change something, right? You need to change something, because doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is what is defined as not possible, right? That's crazy. Like, don't continue to do the same thing and expect something to change. Okay. Now, in financial times of financial crisis, you need to seek help. Running away from your financial problems is only going to make them deeper and longer in time. Okay. Harder to get out of. Okay. So if you know you're going to be behind on a bill and it's like an important bill, like your rent or your electricity, not like Netflix. If you can't pay yourself your rent, you should cancel your Netflix. Like if you can't pay these are choices that we can make relatively easily. Okay. Now, if you want to if you find yourself in financial struggles, right, and you find yourself that you can't pay bills and you can't immediately go out and start to make more money by like working more hours or finding a second job like instantly, like I need more now. Using debt is okay in those situations, but you want to make sure that you don't rely too heavily on it. And also contact your bill collectors, because the reality is they want to get their money. Like I mean, that's a cold, hard reality is whoever you're paying a bill to, they want to get their money. So if you call them and say, hey, I don't have the money right now, can we work out a plan? Sometimes they will actually do that for you. If you just stop making your bill payments and stop making loan payments, then they're going to assume that you're trying to avoid them in default, and then they're going to impose penalties and charge your account, charge your credit, like ding your credit and all that kind of stuff. And why does all this matter? Okay, so this is how, like, I have no desire to be a really wealthy person. I want to be a financially stable person. Okay. And the way that you become financially stable is you really do your best to try to maximize your income, decrease your spending, and then try to build your net worth. So this is like the next level of financial understanding. Every problem that you may ever have, financial problem that you're going to have, has to do with cash flow. Do I make enough money to pay my bills? Do I have enough money in reserves to pay my bills? Okay, that's how that works. Next level thinking is how do I get ahead financially? And that's here in net worth. Okay, so what are my assets? What are the things that I own? And what are my debts? Who do I owe and how much? Okay, this is another mathematical calculation that you can do that's relatively easy. Relatively easy. Yes, I do see that. Canceling subscriptions sometimes could have potential additional costs. That, Michelle, that brings me to that's an excellent point that you make. Like, whenever you go into signing a deal or a contract, especially if it's a loan, like if you go to buy a car and you get a 5-year car loan, you are making a promise that you are going to have income to pay that loan for the next 5 years. And if something happens to your income, that does not negate the loan. The loan contract is you making the payments for 5 years. Sometimes subscriptions and other kinds of things, timeshares, be wary of timeshares. Like I hear nightmares about that. Those are also things you need to consider. Okay. That's why, like, also, whether you want to rent a home, once you get to the point where you're really out there and you've saved up money and you're making these big adult decisions, like if you want to rent a home versus buy a home, like buying a home significantly restricts how often and where you can move, because there's an enormous amount of cost in buying or selling a home. It's not like renting an apartment where it's like your lease runs out, you can bounce, or like, even if you break your lease contract at a rental place, there's going to be significant penalties, but you can still, it's not like thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to sell a house. Okay. So this is next level stuff. Am I owning things and buying things that appreciate or accrue in value, things that go up? Okay. Property, real estates, investments, next level stuff. Am I investing in myself? Am I investing in my own brand? Right? Am I investing in my education? Am I doing things now that's going to make me more money in the future? Not just, have, like, this is how you have to think about it. Okay. So increase your income, increase your assets, reduce your expenses, reduce your liabilities, pay down your loans, and that's how you can move up. Okay. But it does require you to take some risks. It requires to put yourself out there. And when you're young, you can do that. You totally can do that. But it all starts with how you manage your budget. Okay. It all stops and starts with how you manage your budget. And when you get money coming in, where's that money going out? And do I have a plan? Am I trying to be thoughtful about it? That's kind of where it's at. Okay. I'm going to throw this back up here. Again, this is my contact information, and we got about 6 or 7 minutes left, and I got time after this. So if you guys want to ask any questions or have any comments or feedback around what we talked about or need anything clarified, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Tom, I have a question for you. While people are thinking of maybe posting their questions in the chat.
Uh-huh.
Is there a ideal sort of ratio if you look at about what you make every month? Is there a ratio of how much of that should go towards bills, how much of that should go towards saving, how much should be sort of just play money?
Yeah, there are a lot of good rules of thumb around that. The 50-30-20 rule is fairly common. So that's saying that 50% of your overall income should go towards your bills. 30% should go towards your saving, and 20% should go towards like spending, like just your spending. That can be very challenging to reach. I know there are also some things that are a little bit more specific around different things in your budget, like housing shouldn't be more than 1/3 or 30%, 33% of your overall income. Another one is a minimum savings rate should be 10%. That's the minimum you should save is 10%. I know that doesn't quite match up with the 50-30-20 rule. And when I say savings towards savings, like that also can include debt reduction and savings. Like you can kind of split that up because they're kind of the same thing. Like whenever you're reducing your loan balances, that is a way of you saving because the amount of your net worth is actually going up. It's interesting to see kind of how that all works on like a fancy like balance sheet. But yeah, those are some common rules of thumb. Once you get into like more specific things, and really like there's this whole movement online called financial independence, and they look at these things in kind of extremes. It's called financial independence and retiring early. And it's like people that are very ambitious and think about ways to basically not have to work as early as possible, like to retire in their like 30s or 40s. And they take a two-prong approach, and it's really try to absolutely eliminate and live like kind of a stoic lifestyle, or like live like a monk basically, where they don't spend any money on anything that's not an absolute necessity, and save and invest everything. And by that time you can have like tons of money saved up, and then retire in your 40s and go travel and, do all those fun things. It's a balancing act for sure though.
Let's see. I see a question in our Q&A. How do you know when to spend your savings since you potentially have to save it back up again?
Excellent question. That is a really good question. So in my house, like, I make a modest salary at the credit union, and we're a single income family. Like, my wife was working at the state when we had our baby. She quit her job at the state to stay home because of childcare costs and all lifestyle and all these kinds of things. Um, it's been a challenge. Like, it has been definitely been a challenge to try to navigate this. The reason I bring that up is because we have like 6 or 7 different savings accounts in our house, and they're for different purposes. So we have um, our big emergency savings, which is if I lose my job and we have to pay our absolute necessity bills, like that's like absolutely that's the if I'm gonna get like if we're going to get evicted from our house, or our power is going to get shut off, like that's what the emergency saving is for, is absolute true emergencies. I also have an emergency savings set aside just for our cars, because I know owning a car, then we're going to have a problem with the car at some point. And so beyond in my additional expenses, and I only put little bits, I put little tiny bits at a time in, because car emergencies do not happen every month. They certainly don't happen every month. And honestly, they really don't happen much every year. So that can build up over time and really build up. And so when I do have that emergency, it's there. As I mentioned, we have 4 animals in our house. So we have a little savings account just for the vet, a flat screen TV is not an emergency, like a trip to the Bahamas is not an emergency. Those are goals. So you have a separate account set up for a goal. Like, that's also a whole nother conversation. I have an hour-long presentation just around how to set a really good, strong financial goal, which is fantastic. Like, you really need to be thoughtful about it. So you need to define what an emergency is for you, but really, like, the bar is like life or death, or shelter or not shelter, in my opinion. Like, it's like food, absolute necessities. That's like kind of the bar for my like genuine emergency. I see this question from April coming in. Does saving for retirement count as savings? I love that question too. Like, because I think about saving different. Like, I think that it's separate. Okay. Because it's for a separate purpose, right? So like, saving for retirement is a long-term savings goal. So if you think about that 50-30-20 rule, like that 30% of savings could be broken up something like this: 10% to retirement, 10% to your emergency savings and short-term savings needs, and then 10% to reducing your debts. And if you don't have debt, then you could maybe split it 15 and 15%. When you're young, when you're in your 20s and 30s and even 40s, you have to think about your long-term retirement savings, even if it's the smallest amount, like even if it's only whatever your employer is going to match. Start doing then. But I don't like that. I really don't like that advice, because that's boring and generic advice that everyone gets. Save the maximum amount that you're allowed to by law. If you can afford that, you will have a significantly awesome retirement. Okay. It's hard though. Like, it's hard. It's difficult to do. If you're already doing that, then kudos to you. Like, seriously, if you're set up with a 401k, and for those of you young folks that may not be familiar with what we're talking about, a 401k and an IRA are types of retirement accounts that allow certain tax advantages. And there are different types, and like, we can get into a lot of, basically what it is you can take money and invest it now when you're young, and you can invest it into the stock market and into bonds and all different types of investment products, financial products. And you're not allowed to touch it by law. You'll get penalized. You're not allowed to touch it until you're older than 60 years old, 59 and a half. Okay. And the reason why is because if you don't, like, if you're going to be dependent or reliant only on Social Security, or, pensions aren't really a thing. Basically, at some point in your life, young people, You haven't even started working yet, but at some point in your life, you're going to want to stop working. It sounds really stupid. That you're not working now as a kid, and you're going to work, and then you're going to not work. That's kind of how this whole thing goes. And if it comes a point in your life where you're going to want to not work, then while you're working, you have to save money when you're generating income in order to be able to live off of that. So the more you save now, the better your life is going to be in the future. And that is in regards to retirement, that's in regards to non-retirement investing, that is in regards to education and all these kinds of things. The less you spend now, the more money you're going to have in the future. Okay, so going to college is a great investment, can be a great investment, but it will only be a great investment if you realize the returns by getting a degree that is going to be making you more money in the future, and you go into a career that is going to be very profitable. Or if you find yourself a partner out there and you guys can work it to where one person makes a bunch of money and the other person gets to like do what they love, like that's another option as well. Or another, I mean, like there's a million, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but the right or wrong parts are making more money than you spend and then saving and investing for long-term needs or emergency situations.
All right, we have another question here in the chat. I have a job, but I waste my money. How should I begin saving? We all have a tendency to want to do that.
I do it. I teach
Maybe
this
not
stuff and
want
I do
to,
it.
but do it.
Yeah. And how you define waste is really weird too. Like when I do these for older audiences, I actually usually include what's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid, which is a psychological thing that talks about what needs and wants are. Waste is something that you don't realize until after the fact in most cases. Anytime, my perception of this is like, anytime you spend money, it's a need at the moment. Like, I need this cup of coffee, I need this glass of wine, I need this night out, I need this vacation, I need this TV, I need this iPhone, I need these shoes, I need this purse, I need this whatever. And then only later on can you reflect back, and you're already spent the money, so it's a sunk cost at that point. So you've already spent the money. The way that you get around avoiding wasteful spending is through the process of paying attention to your money and keeping a budget, right? Give yourself an allowance for wasteful spending and know where your weaknesses are. And if they are genuine weaknesses, do your best to avoid it. One of my coworkers, his daughter, who's now like incredibly intelligent and like graduating from nursing school. When I first started the credit union, she was in like middle school, I think. I've been here 10 years now. So yeah, I think she was in middle school. And her weakness was Wawa. Every time she went into Wawa, she spent every dollar that was in her pocketbook, because there's fun stuff in Wawa. There's candy and soda and stupid things that light up, like that we all love. I love things that light up. I got all kinds of lights and things. But and at the time you want it and you're like, yeah, sweet, this is awesome, and you get good value out of it at that moment, and you get that one little bit of relief. But then down the line you're like, man, I feel like I wasted all my money. So that's why that goes back to that Warren Buffett comment: after you save, then spend your money. After you save first and then spend. And then once you feel like you're on a good path with your saving, then the spending becomes much less a feeling of wastefulness, because you may not have it as much to waste, or you feel like I've earned that because I've actually done the right thing first.
One thing that I really like to do is have a certain amount automatically deducted from my paycheck and go directly to my savings account. So I don't ever see it. It just, it gets taken out before my paycheck even hits my account. So I feel like that's a little less painful.
Definitely. There's all kinds of tricks to hide money from yourself and trick yourself into savings. Like, have your savings account. If you have your checking account with the credit union, maybe have your savings account with a different credit union or an online bank or something like that. Like, keep it away from where you can get to it, because a lot of times we are our own worst enemy. Like, if there's a pint of ice cream in the fridge, it's going to get eaten. If the pint of ice cream in there, then I can actually stick to my diet because I don't have it. It's not there. Then I just drive up to the ice cream shop. But, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard.
It definitely requires discipline. That's for sure.
Sure.
All Right. Well, it looks like we have reached our time. I just wanted to go over a couple quick things before I let everybody go. First of all, thank you again, Tom. This has been super helpful. And I know this is really just the tip of the iceberg. So if any of our teachers or educators out there would like Tom, as he mentioned earlier, to do a workshop for your classes, please reach out to him. I will be sending out an email again with his contact info, so you have that. If you would like to see the library host any more events, expand on any of the topics that he touched on today or any other financial literacy topics, reach out to me. I will be happy to arrange that with Tom as well. We are recording this video. We will post it to the library's YouTube channel probably by the end of the week. And again, I will send out that link in a follow-up email to everybody who attended today, so you'll have that. I did mention in the chat today, Tom talked about Excel and how valuable that is. It's a good resource for budgeting. It's a good workforce resource. You can access our universal class database through our website, which you can do online classes there and learn how to use Excel for your various needs. So I encourage you to do that. And last but not least, I want to let our teens that are watching know today that we're doing our virtual teen lounge on our Discord channel today. Come hang out, play games, socialize, have fun. That's from 3 to 5. Reach out to me if you want some more answers or some more info on how to access that. And I hope everybody takes away some wonderful information from today to kind of help set them up for financial success, get them on the path, or keep them on the right path. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.